I got goosebumps just thinking about it. That's just not who I am. That's not where my, I think it's just that's not where my ministry is, right? That's not mine. But I decided on Thursday I was going to try to emulate that somehow, some way. And the young lady who's setting up things for our CG stopped by and said, hey, we're Sergeant Major, we need people to help set up. And I, for me, went out there and set up all the tables, took up the chairs, put all that stuff together. And for me, that's not my wheelhouse of what I normally do. And I want to thank you for that. Because she was very appreciative, because she was stressing, if you can imagine, when our CG is very appreciative of that. So I thank you for setting that example for me, which I tried to pass that along. Thank you. Anyone like to share with me or not?
I can say on that same note, he sent me a text message, and I like laugh out loud. And I was preparing to get stuff for the CG's farewell, so I stopped by the little dollar store. And I remember last week he shared, and I go to the store and I just randomly pay for somebody's stuff. They had a young lady in front of me with her daughter, and they was getting ready to buy stuff, and I was sitting there looking at them. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do him. I'm gonna do what he do. So I did that. I like as soon as she got ready to pay for it, it's okay. Add it to mine. Y'all have a nice day. And just the look on her face, I can see why he does it.
Yeah. It's the giving. It's the giving. It's the big deal. Right? Yeah. And that's how. Anyone else like to share? No.
I almost never go home early. If it's 6:30, there's like 4 of us on the floor all the time, and then I usually leave 2 people on the floor. So last week was spring break, so it was so empty upstairs. It's like, you know what? I think I'm gonna be able to get out of here by 5:30. So I walk out the door. It's like, oh, it's only 5:15. So this other person's leaving out. They're at the elevator landing with me. And, oh man, this is pretty early for you, right? It's like 5:15. It's like, yeah, it is. Lo and behold, on the way down, going out the door, we're walking down Crystal Drive, and this person says, you know what, I really need your opinion on something. And so now I'm thinking, I was gonna leave early. 2 buses went past me. So I did not stop. I was out there for an hour.
Wow.
Talking to this person about some issues he's having with his supervisor.
Wow.
And it was a very good, it wasn't a complaining. He was really trying to figure out, how do I make this better? And I guess that's what moved me more than just, oh, I can't do it, the complaining. But he was really trying to find a way. How do I approach this? How do I go about this? And I was like, okay, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you understand the situation. But, and then he's just like, yeah. Oh, that's really good. Oh, I never thought about that. And for me, it's, being in the military, we're all been in the military. And you figure, okay, 18, 24 months, I'm out of here. And this person was a military person. And he's already been here a year. So he doesn't have much time left. But the fact that he was willing to continue to work at trying to make that relationship better, it's like, yep, 3rd bus passed on by. But that was it was okay. And it was really okay. I was kind of, afterwards, I was like, man, yeah, I still didn't go home till but it was fun.
It was well worth it, right?
It was well worth it.
Absolutely. And that's how
you could just see his,
right.
Like his, yes.
Oh, somebody to help me carry that burden. That's about what influence is. That's the influence you have with others. So now, no longer, even though you don't know this person, you now have started that ripple effect that if he takes that to the next level with his boss.
Yes.
And then the young lady that you saved $10, $15, $20, $30, whatever it is, that may be an Easter egg or something for her daughter today or tomorrow. It's the ripple effect that we cause. Now,
definitely a new dress, right?
Right, absolutely.
Okay, every little girl
wants a little dress. And then, so for me, with the young lady who I've only passed in the hallway now, the next time we stop, we're going to sit and talk. That now builds relationships in our own headquarters building. So the art of influence, the becoming a person of influence, is easy when you do those things in which you're already driven to do. So I say I intentionally, and I still ping you from time to time on you saying, hey, did you decide, or are you gonna do? And answer or not answer, it's all okay. But to put that in your memories. What I have is we were left off at question number 5 on page 11. That's what I have. Did you have something different? No. Nope, okay, so, yeah. So why do I influence others? Why do you sometimes ultimately determine what you do? Why you do something ultimately determines sometimes what you do. Right motives are crucial to people because leadership functions on the basis of trust. Trust. So, questioning your motive is different than questioning your character. Motives are usually attached to a specific situation, but are often short in duration. Character, however, is connected to the heart and is with you in all situations. Therefore, you can have a temporary flawed motive and still have a solid character. Continual wrong motives is a result of bad character. Like I often say, right? That if I've made many deposits into that emotional bank account, I can have an error or two, and we still have a balance left. That's the character part.
Stephen Covey.
That's correct. 7 habits of highly effective people. Hey, so it's funny how it's all the same, said different ways. From the Quran to the Bible, from Buddha from Taoism. I mean, it's the same, but said differently. And it was a no statement, right? So your behavior is a shadow, and your character is the body. Does that make sense to you? So character is to behavior is what the body is to the shadow. Isn't that an interesting thought? So what you are, you reflect. I came and asked you, I said, hey, do you know any soldiers? He's like, that's who you are. You help people with fixing their cars. You moved Colonel McClariel's office, and she was so touched by that. Would I hurry up and have him ask you? And I started the measurements. I said, I would have been like, it's up. He's measuring it, make sure it's level, make sure it looked appropriate, because that's your love. Rob's our intellectual, right? So Rob comes in, and we talk for about 30, 45 minutes about intellectual things. He's a deep thinker, right? And Jennifer, just to go get her, she's like, hey, look, don't you ever, and I still quote, don't you ever come here again and not be able to do that. I appreciate that, right? My point is that we all have that, who we are in our character comes out. So on page 12 now. So where do I influence others? Too often people feel that they cannot influence others because they don't have a leadership position. Who was in our last class who said that? And she works in the front desk over there. That's Donita. So Donita works, Donita, right? When she was in the class, the last class, she said, I don't have any influence. I'm not in a position.
Right. She always says that.
See that, Debs?
I mean, almost through the whole session. I mean, the whole 4 sessions, not just one. She's like, I'm not. And everyone's like, oh, yes, you are.
She's the first face you see.
So as I helped run a couple of hospitals, what I would tell the ladies, and most times ladies working at the telephone banks, you're usually my first contact with our MTF is you. You set the tone for our MTF.
Absolutely.
So that's why I come visit you once a week. I'll go visit the DFAC once every quarter, but I come visit you every week. Because you're the first contact my patients have. So the same thing when you go into your positions of leadership. Remember, for your outside the organization looking in, the first contact is usually sometimes the least paid person, but has the biggest influence. So pay attention to that.
So true. I told my training coordinator that.
Yeah.
I said, you are the face of the department. I know you're the most junior, but you're the public servant for the folks on the floor because you're the coordinator.
Yes.
So not just helping the folks on the floor, but also our external folks who are trying to get services from.
Absolutely.
We want to put our best foot forward.
Absolutely.
So when we're in their area, say, this is a great organization.
That's correct. That's what you want to hear, right? And the same thing when you're sitting at the table for the sync meetings, or if you're sitting at a meeting in the hospital, right? And you're the representative for OBGYN, let's say. reason, right? They start to think that this is what OBGYN is. This is what WTO is. How we perform at those is we're starting to increase or decrease, positively or negatively, our level of influence. So it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are able to and willing to provide the correct type of influence in which we need, for not just for us as a human being, but also for our section or department. It's hugely important. So where do I influence? Not just because of my position. Not just because I'm dad because I said so. Not because I'm mom because I said so. But do I lead by that example? Remember, the position doesn't make the leader makes the position.
Right. You don't just respect that person. You don't respect that rank.
Yes.
You gotta respect that person.
That's correct. So I will salute because that's a requirement. But do I respect the individuals? Do I have a
There's a
conversation?
difference.
Do you spend that time? For me, my love language is time, right? So I go talk to General Torrin. We talk 2 or 3 times a week. And then Monday, he knows I'll be in his office about 7, a little before 7, and sitting down talking with him about what he do with the weekend. I respect General Torrin. Right? And I told you a story about me and General Caravallo, right? So I respect him as well. So the leaders make the position. So you and I talked about with Sergeant Roman in your positions, right? So the leader makes the position. Donita in her position. You with Miss Stafford, for example. I think there's a point of an opportunity for influencing her, right? Now, it may take a little bit longer because she's been doing it for 20 years. I'm exaggerating this a little bit, right? So it may take a little bit more to help to influence those individuals, but we can still do that. And we should never think that just because I have a position of, Jennifer, supervisors, lieutenant colonels. But just because I'm the supervisor doesn't mean that you're the person of the most influence.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey Roy, how you doing? Oh, nice cut, man. Look at that. So everyone, this is Roy. Roy, this is Deb Metal, Lieutenant Colonel. She works in the she works in the WTO office with me. That's her husband there.
Behind the camera.
Yeah, and so what I'm proud about Roy is a new company commander as a lieutenant in the WTU across the street from us.
Okay.
Phenomenal. And I've been looking at some nice posts too, by the way, on Facebook, man. Who fired up, my friend. So thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. So just because you're in a position doesn't mean that you have the most level of influence. We have informal leaders, and remember so business 101, right? About power, expert power, positional power, right? Influence. So we have those people who are not in positions who are also influencers. So we need to seek those out. We're on page 12, Roy. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, we need to seek those out.
And you need to accept them.
That's correct. Oh, absolutely.
Because, I've
That's
told
good.
you plenty of times,
Yeah.
I've had that conversation with Colonel Bross. It's like, yes, I may be the department chief, but you're still a lieutenant colonel in the United States
And
Army.
who?
It doesn't, that I'm not the everything, right?
That's right.
But I say the same thing to my NCOIC. You're a master sergeant, you are a senior NCO in this headquarters. I'm expecting that if I'm not here, you should be able to step in as a leader.
Yeah.
And because we're all seniors. I just happen to be the one that has to write the report at the end of the rating
Look at
period,
that.
right?
Look, what an attitude.
So, and hopefully it also, I think, fosters teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
We use that word so much and we throw it around, but I believe people want to see teamwork as, oh, you're doing what I say, so we're a team. No, it's about us working together, not just because I'm telling you.
And that takes influence. That takes a level of trust that we talked about just briefly before, right? You got to have trust in that can happen, that person's got your back. Then when you're not there, that they're not going to stab you in the back. That if you are there, they're going to look you in your brown, blue, green eyes and tell you, hey, you didn't make the standard. Right? Touche, right? Wherever we were sitting. Hey, don't you ever do that again, right? That's important, a level of trust. In order to have trust, though, you've got to open yourself for that. I said before, right? In order to learn, you've got to say, I'm ignorant. In order to get love, you got to expose yourself to being hurt by that love. So it does take a level of exposure in order to grow and learn, and also to be a person of influence as well. Leadership mistakes often made by people in the middle of the pack. One, if I'm not on top, I can't lead. We just had that discussion about with Donita, right? Not true. Leadership is influence, not position. Leadership is influence, not position. Number two, when I get to the top, then I will learn to lead. You will be tomorrow what you are preparing for today. So, as we know about Roy's going out there, Roy's a bodybuilder for those of you who don't know, right?
Oh, you can tell.
And Roger, right? And so we all are a sum product of what we did yesterday, the day before that, day before that, 5 years ago, sitting here. We are some product of those things. So if you want to be that leader of tomorrow, you need to start doing that leadership today, right? So one of the books I read, not as often as I should read, talks about, I'm going to give you a little bit. See how you do with that little bit, right? Because the master went away, giving us, what did you do with your talents, right? So some of them made a lot more with them, some made a few bit with them, and one or two buried them. Didn't do anything with that influence, level of influence. So we should be prepared for today that which we want to be tomorrow. And if that's leadership, that means influence. And that influence is from doing the little love acts on Thursday, whatever that is, doing the intentional compliment on exactly what you did or didn't do well. The influence is being that person out of the box saying you didn't make the mark. Not that you're a bad human being, not that you're a bad sister, brother, whatever the case may be, you didn't make the mark on this. That's also being a level of influence. Number three, if I were on top, everyone would follow. If people don't follow me now, then they won't follow you then.
Yeah, a lion doesn't have to tell you it's a lion.
Amen, right? Absolutely. And then leadership recognizes leadership. Influence recognizes influence. So you don't have to pretend that you are something that you are not. Just be what you are, and that will attract. If you want to be an influencer, start influencing. Remember my talk, my statement is, be, then you do, then you get. Now you can do, but you may get it, but it won't last long, more times than not. The millionaire mindset, remember talking about money often because it's one we measure. Not having the millionaire mindset, but getting $1 million from lottery, you lose it in 5 or 6 years. MC Hammer, right? Not having that millionaire mindset. So as Jim Rohn, one of my mentors, says, be the millionaire before you get the $1 million. What he's saying is, have that $1 million, being that influencer now, before you get into the position of having greater and greater influence, or you will fall. The higher you go, the less options you have, right? So as you know, and I think that we're starting to feel that, if he hasn't already, that your time is not your time. The higher you get up in the ladder, the higher positions are. You got this person needs your time, that person needs your time, this document needs your time, this signature needs your time. Your boss wants your time. Telephone call we had yesterday about moving soldiers around the nation. And then I imagine, most people went home. It was Good Friday. So most of the digital suitors went home. But when I left, Deb was still there, still working on that stuff. Because the higher you go up in that ladder of influence, of leadership, the time is not yours. On page 13, here's what he says again. This is John Maxwell. Leadership is influence. This is the third time he's saying that. Leadership is influence. He always says that nothing less, nothing more. Would you mind reading that for me there?
Right. Leadership is the very essential of all power and influence. Lies in getting the other person to participate.
Okay. So again, what's the definition of leadership in the Army? Remember that traditional the Army leadership book? Anyone remember it? No. Remember it?
Yes. To influence other people by and doing more.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember? Something like that.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's right. So it says something along the lines of this. Leadership is the art of influencing others to accomplish a mission by giving them direction, purpose, and motivation, right? Something along that lines, right? but it still talks about influencing others. So General Caravallo, one of the best leaders I've worked with, talks about inspirational leadership. He said you can lead out of fear. Well, when you're gone, guess what happens? They go right back off to doing what they do. But if you inspire them, I want to work with that guy. I saw General Caravallo when I had just pinned on Sergeant Major in 2004. That's when I first saw him. He was in 06. And I watched him and his Sergeant Major at the time, and I said, I want to work with that guy. His posture, his stance, his aura, his demeanor, his intestinal fortitude, and his character just screamed. Fast forward, I don't know what, 7 years. And guess who's now a 2-star, or 1-star, soon to be a 2-star, and hires me. And I told him after he hired me, and we're sitting on the carpet, I wanted to work with you when I met you when you were in 06. When you were in 06, I wanted to work with you. Funny how you put things out there in the universe, in the law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, prayer, positive affirmations, whatever you want to call it, works to bring that to fruition. So, influence lives in others, getting others to do what you need them to do. It ain't my brother, it ain't my sister, it ain't my wife, it ain't my first sergeant. When I'm wrong, make me willing to change. When I'm right, make me easy to live with others. Told you I was right. Told you so. That begs of ego. That begs of pride goeth before a fall. Because when you're that I told you so person, when you do fall, guess what everybody's doing? They're having a party. And they're talking ish about you. But if you're that humble person, when you do make a mistake, everybody's like, hey, let me help you out. Huge difference in the world. And then when you are the right type of leader, the right type of influencer, people really want you to succeed. They will go out of their way to help you succeed. But if you're not the right type of influencer, people will go out of their way to or let you fail. So when I'm right, make me easy to live with. So strengthen me that the power of my influence will far exceed the authority of my position. Donita Anderson. Make me so strong that my power of influence far exceeds my position. Mother Teresa. Now, if you know her story, talk about poor to poor, but yet had kings and queens at her beck and call. What a great prayer. Our influence with others is usually not in all areas. What do you mean, yeah? You agree with that? You agree with that?
Yes, I do agree that you may be influential in one setting, but
Yes.
not so much in
Absolutely
another.
right.
It just depends on, how you function in this one area, how you project in that one area.
Yeah.
And then if you're in some other area, you may not necessarily feel like you need to be a leader, whatever the case might be. It goes back to be to get.
Ah, very good.
However, you can, and it just depends on how you feel like you want to grow in that other area, whatever the case might be.
That's
So
right.
I agree with the statement.
Yeah, and if you do need to then have an influence in other, maybe to Jen's point, you can use this surrogate. So in other words, there may be somebody else who's influential in that area that you're not influential in, and you have influence with the other person. You're able to use that surrogate to get to things to where you need them to be and go. So let's use an example. So I know that the Millers have dogs. I know Jen has dogs.
What kind of dogs?
We have a lab and a Yorkie.
Okay.
Yeah, and Jen have
I
dogs.
have 2 chihuahuas and a dachshund mix.
See?
Those are the most vicious dogs, the smaller breeds. Are always
They are. They really are. They think they are. Now, if Roy, if I could get you to read this next statement there with respect to that.
Anytime you think you have influence, try ordering around someone else's dog.
It's okay, right?
All right.
Do you see that? So yes, So Jen's got definite influence with her dogs. She's got influence with her dogs. You got definite influence with your dogs, right? And then try to order someone else's dog around. But to my point, they're using the surrogate. Hey, can you help me out with getting your dog to do X, Y, Z? Hey, how are you? I'm afraid you may have to, you want to spell this room here.
Certainly.
No issue whatsoever. So, everyone, this is, what do you want me to call it?
Rashida.
Okay, Rashida, all right? So this is, and you know, this Colonel Miller, Deb Miller.
Hi.
She works in the office, you two met, right?
I don't.
Really? So she's our nurse case manager in the office right there with me. She works in dental, right?
Oh, okay.
Right on the other side. And that's Mr. Miller over there.
Hi.
And I think you know everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're on page 13, getting ready to go to page 14. As a matter of fact, we're on page 14 now. So with influence comes, sounds like leadership and power, right? Spider-Man, what's Spider-Man's one of his taglines?
Great power comes, I forgot.
Yeah, that's right.
Uncle Ben said?
That's right, that's what he
okay.
said.
Great power comes great responsibility.
That's right, Uncle Ben did say it, and Spider-Man uses that often when he says that. When he remembers, and it's on the comic books anyway, right? He remembers often, Spider-Man wasn't a comic book, right? So, I'm dating myself.
Ben, I had just one thought
Yeah.
that came to mind. Can we, if we go back to page 13, I was talking
Absolutely.
about like why you guys are speaking about influence in all areas. I think to me, what jumps out of this and is beyond that, I think it's people having the same spirit as you too. I think that is does that make sense?
No, slow down a little bit, yeah.
So like you could be born into a family.
Mhm.
You could all do the same thing. You could be of the same like. Let me see how I can word this the right way. So my family and I never really aspired to do much, even though I try to influence
Mhm.
them to like. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college,
Mhm.
first person to become an officer in the army.
Mhm.
Like I did all these things, but yet they just want me to move back home, get married, have kids like everybody else. But that's not my spirit.
Right.
At 29,
Right.
still not married, no
Right.
children.
Right.
So I'm kind of breaking the norm.
Right.
So a lot of times it'd be like, I may not be of this. I might be of that blood, but I'm not of that spirit.
Makes sense.
I think Les Brown kind of coined
Yep.
that when he said,
Right.
you may be of the same family, bloodline, whatever, but you may be of a different spirit. So when
Absolutely.
it comes to different people, you can have influence on people, but like I try to motivate people on a regular basis. Like I have about 5 people in here that I know of that I talk to on a daily basis, trying to motivate, but I can tell in the way that they respond that they're just not there. They're not ready to take that next step because they themselves don't believe in
Yeah,
that.
right.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
I can't make them do anything. I can
Cannot.
quote unquote influence them,
Yeah.
but there's just something about your spirit that just has to be like,
That's right.
I gotta want more.
Yes.
I gotta be able to
Yes.
pursue more.
I agree with you
know what I mean?
wholeheartedly.
So if they're not
Absolutely.
of that same mindset as you, because
Yeah.
people in the workplace are that same way.
Yes.
Like I play motivational videos or whatever it is, I listen to gospel music,
Yeah.
whatever it is, people get, they're in their own little way
Yeah.
about it. I'm just like, hey, you don't have to listen to what I do, or do what I do. That's just who I am.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to get to a place where we talk about leadership and influence is also meeting people where they are. And knowing that when you meet people where they are, then not all of them have even the aspirations to go where we're going, one. Number two, don't have the capability to go where we're going, two. And then just some that's just never going to make it to whatever we aspire that to. And as I said recently, it doesn't make it right or wrong, it just makes it different. And for you, your aspirations are on the level of feeling, because I really believe we talked about this earlier, about whatever the feeling is that you want because of what you've been through in your life, that didn't affect them the same way, even if they were in the same environment. Because if you have kids, if you've got more than 1 or 2 kids, I can tell you, without even thinking about it, not even knowing your situation, that your kids are not all the same. You have the same rules, same environment, and one ends up being the president and one ends up going to jail, and that's President Bill Clinton.
No,
Was it Carter or Clinton?
Carter's brother was in jail also.
Also, somebody was alcoholic. Was it Carter?
Carter.
Carter then. So that's before most of you were born, but anyway. it was Carter, right? So to your point, absolutely correct. My wife says often, right, that if she'd not had left and joined the army at the age of 18, whatever not, she probably would have been where a lot of the other folks in her small town were. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, it just is. Now, if you heard me the last time I talked about slavery, right, in the ships, right? We needed those who jumped off the ship, we needed those who acquiesced, and we needed those who now became the martyrs. So all of that came together to make us to where we are, all of us to where we are, right? It just is. And for you, that may not, and I think that, I think Mr. Mills said very aptly, what did he say? About the, what you said too, the right spirit. There's that spirit, his spirit is of giving, and then somebody has a spirit of providing financial aid, having that right spirit, and your spirit is that, and it's true that it's not opposites attract, like attracts. So if you want to know kind of who you are, look at the people you hang with. So if we talk about crabs in the barrel, we have a discussion, right? Then if you believe that, then you probably need to be a crab. I'm just saying. I'm just saying that, right? If the friends you guys you hang with are dogs, you know what I mean, then you might be a dog. Maybe. I mean, you could be the human in that pack. You might not be.
You could be, but there's a possibility that you have some of the traits that they do have since you hang with them.
I would submit to you that's almost always true. Now, where we are not Jesus, is I think that we can dip in there, whatever that is. But if you hang in there, you're gonna come off with fleas.
That's the difference, I think.
I believe that. So I think we have the obligation to try to plant the seeds. Man, we have the obligation to try to plant the seeds.
Can I go for a few
And
seconds to get something?
then the seeds may
Thank you.
take root. No issue. The seeds may take root, or they may not, but we still have the obligation to plant the seed, right? I can take the horse to water, I can't make him drink it. And the first time I ever saw that, not literally, was we used to do these 12-mile walks with my neighbors, and they bring the dog along, and he would want his dog to drink water. The dog would not drink the water. The dog didn't want to drink the water. He was trying to put, Rudy was his name, like the movie. He tried to put Rudy's face, Rudy wouldn't drink that water. First time I ever seen it in real. I get it, I understand it now, right? I would submit to you, you're spot on. We can't influence others in all areas. We can try to even find surrogates. But until the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Whenever the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Because you can give the invitations, you can put it out there and say, come to my church, you need to be saved.
There's also a lot of people who go to church.
Amen, and they, absolutely. To the point of, there are people in positions of power and leadership who are not truly influencers. And I can think of a couple in our building that with influence comes responsibility. And what the responsibility is, there are people whose well-being and destinies are within the leader's influence. A leader cannot escape that fact. Too many leaders want the perks of leadership, you know, we're talking about this, without paying the price of leadership. Too many people want the perks of being a leader without paying the price of being a leadership. So I just submit to you, when I was in the uniform, especially as a first sergeant, I believe that I was supposed to be the first one in and the last one out. Not because I need to show anybody anything, because I got that much work to do. I truly did. I also got the parking space up front too. That was that's one of the perks, I believe, right? When I walk in, you call the room to at ease, right? But when it was time to cross the berm into Iraq, the first guy up, checking on everybody in their sleeping bag, was this one. When it came time to talk to the colonel and say, you got no clothes on, you know, I'm that guy that needs to do that. Or once my time to stand up for the folks and say, we're hurting the people, and then get the butt chewed, I'm the one that needs to do that. I believe that there's a price of leadership. There's also, we gotta keep that ego in check though. We gotta keep that ego in check at your house, ego in check in the workplace, because there's a price of leadership in it. And remember that somebody's well-being and destiny is within the leader's influence. And especially as I talk with Roy, I mean, now, and I said to you before, when unfortunately that time comes when you've got to do the Article 15, when you've got to take money out of somebody's pocket, you got to reduce the rent. Know that you're affecting somebody else's well-being and their destiny. Because, you know, $2,000 a month may not sound like a lot of money to some people, but that's what all they make, some people make. When you talk about taking half of that, there's a mama or a daddy and a baby on the other end that's being affected by that. And when you now talk about a soldier who had 3 stripes and now has a little specialist mark there, there's an embarrassment mark that comes with that. Somebody who's already weak mentally, there's an embarrassment mark that comes with that. Or God forbid, you even take nothing there, because there's no such thing. It's just a Velcro that shows when you reduce them down to E1. And everyone who sees you knows, unless you're at AIT with no patch on the side, because that means you haven't finished AIT, you got busted.
One of the harshest things I've seen in the Navy when I was in uniform is to that point when you take a sailor to what we call captain's mast, and you reduce them in pay. You have the dull side of the coin, which are the responsibilities, the burden of leadership. We used to say that you can't leave sailors walking across the brow with them. In other words, you have to be in place on that ship when they come on board, and then you're the last person off the ship when they've gone ashore, whatever the case might be. So
That's good. That's good.
So that's just kind of my experience.
Absolutely.
Leading in the Navy.
Absolutely.
Do they still do that?
What's that?
Those captain's mast things?
It's Article,
I'm pretty sure.
It's Article 15. It's Article 15.
Yeah, in Army speak it'd be an Article 15. So
Yeah.
They still do the whole stripping and everything like that?
probably. They're probably, but the further you get away from DC, like to the farthest reaches out there on sea, on some of these aircraft carriers or whatever, you'll probably see some of the old ways of the Navy out there. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I think there's a reason why, we don't do some of the traditions that we used to do in the Navy. But on the other hand, I see why we did some of those things. And I think some sailors are probably lacking because senior leadership doesn't have the latitude that they used to have.
I also think back then leaders knew how to follow, so they can lead. Now you don't see it too often, and I always say you have to learn how to follow before you can lead. So I don't feel like necessarily now it's harder now because the Army's different than it was back then. The military in whole, because I know mostly Navy than I do Army. I was married Navy 10 years, so it's different, like how it is from back then. Leaders were leaders. They knew what to do, they knew how to do it, and they knew how to go about into getting that sailor or soldier back to the norm of where they needed to be. Now it's like everybody don't care.
Back then, you mean 1902? I don't know. I mean, I've been retired for 2 years, right? It was 32 years in, and I was at the, on the enlisted side pinnacle, near the pinnacle. I was definitely on the mountain top. I was like the very pinnacle. But what I would note is, I think, based on 1980 to 83 when I came in, to when I left in 2015, the difference I would think on is the amount of distractions that we have. We talked about this, from the phones to the emails to the coming in to the metrics in which we measure. We've lost this. Let's sit down, let's talk. Let me find out. I don't know that your wife is emotionally abusing you because I'm too busy sending emails. We used to call them computer sergeants, right? Instead of being a platoon sergeant, you're a computer sergeant. Because this is how you're sending out ish. You're sending an email. You're not circulating the battlefield. And one of my, or circulating on the ship, walking the ship. So one of my weaknesses was, and still is, to this day, if you ever look at my emails, that I will spend 20, 30 minutes talking to somebody in my office. I'll walk the building and talk to some people, and I'll get behind on my emails. But I know that I believe that this is more important. Because if it's real, so General Williams was like this, Darrell Williams. He would have 1,000, maybe 1,500 unread emails. He would say, if it's important enough, they'll send me another email. If it's really important, they'll call. If it's really, really, really important, they'll walk their ass down here and see me. But I do look for 4 emails. I look for the Chief of Staff of the Army. I look for the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army. I look for the Surgeon General, because that's who we work for. And I look for anything from my wife. Other than that, everybody else. Everybody else. And if you go into WCT right now, the #1 loved commander, 7 years removed now, is General Williams. #1. Because this is what we need. So that's what I see is difference, right? And I would submit to you, and I pray God that you get to pin something on in the middle of that chest a little different, Lieutenant, to be the change you are talking about. It's easy for any of us to sit back and say, I would have done it. That's Monday morning quarterbacking. But be the change you want to see. So that's again part of the paying the price of leader, of influence, of being the change. So that means looking in the mirror and saying, hey, you know what? I'm a lot of talk, not as much action as I. But I think I'm a lot of action until you get that 360 review, and then you realize, wait a minute, what? I'm not. I come across that way. I mean, that's what the mills are helping me with right now for this. How do I come across? And when I go back and review it, get the feedback, and trust me, next class, you guys give me the feedback, then I adjust. Because I don't see, right? And then, so again, is the influence, regardless of your position, regardless of your rank, your position, because you cook, she cooks well, by the way. She cooks very well, by the way.
Oh, did you do the cupcakes?
No, she did the apple.
The apple.
Oh, they were so pretty.
Yeah, well, gorgeous, weren't they? And I had some of her apple, the soup apple.
Oh, the careful. Carrot.
I have no idea. But it was good. But my point is, though, sharing that with you all, and for you to understand, your influence may be through your cooking right now. Because it brings everybody to your cubicle and talk. I can't with you right now. That's what you say all the time. And yes, and then what does he do? Okay, here you go. All the time. That's what she said. And then whatever he's doing, he stops. I don't know if you realize that's influence. I think you realize it. Maybe not cognitively. Maybe you've never stepped back on it. But regardless of your rank, you have huge influence with him. I met you by saying, who are you? And then I start taking you around the whole building because I'm proud of what you've accomplished. Rob and I were talking about you almost an hour ago now. We're proud of your level of influence. Don't ever underestimate that. And it's not because of your position. Now, when you get the position like him, right? When you get the position, never forget where you come from. Don't forget that you still have influence on others. And now you have even bigger responsibilities. So my influence, on page 14, with others is either positive or negative. It can be either a positive or negative. My influence, my life shall touch a dozen lives before this day is done. And that's why I talked about the Thursday Love Me Day. Leave countless marks of good or ill ere sets the evening sun. This is the wish I always wish, the prayer I always pray. God, May my life help other lives it touches by the way. Mr. Miller was talking about that's one of the things, that's his thing that he wants to do. I'm telling you that you have influence that the guy or girl driving next to you in the morning, when they got the signal light on and they've missed their turn, they want to get in. But we speed up and block them because they should have to wait just like we did. You just influenced them, good or bad, I don't know. The lady at the checkout who's scanning things. How's your day? Sincerity. You've just influenced them. We all have that choice in everything that we do. Your child, who we love, that influence with them. Mom, can you talk to me? I don't have time right now.
Oh, that don't work in my house. They talk their ear off.
That's good because you're their comfort, you're their protection. That's their kingdom. As I said to the Mills when they came over to my house. Now we are all more than one person, if you know what I mean, right? So my house, my basement, is where I'm able to be who I am, whether you like it or don't like it, right? So I'm very reluctant to have people. I've been in it 5 years. That was the first outside the family. And Indian family's only been there 2 or 3 times. Outside the family that come in, because that's mine. Now I'll sit and talk with you all day long. I'll talk to you in the parking lot. I go to lunch with you. I'll sit in the office. But my home is my privacy. So that's where your kids feel protected and loved. That's where they can be them. That's mommy. That's huge. That's the greatest level of influence. That's the greatest level of influence. And it can be positive or negative. Now, who defines positive or negative?
A holder.
I agree with you. 100%. So things happen to everyone, right? But not all of us are able to hear that. Not all of us are able to do that. Things happen to all of us. The sowing of life. I know Roy's story. You've heard my story. If you read political, you know my brother's story, right? That's the sowing of life. Yeah. I know your story somewhat, especially when you talk about your sister. No idea. That happens. But you didn't go in a fetal position and quit. You could have, but you didn't. With all due respect, you could have, but you didn't.
Could have wasn't an option.
For you. But not everyone has that.
I was gonna say, Ben, as we were reading this, I was thinking something like, I don't know if you ever watched, Will Smith is a pretty good motivator. I don't know.
Yeah, he's good. Oh yeah, he's little videos on YouTube.
But he was talking about how him and a friend were the difference between fault and responsibility.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you've heard that one, right?
Yeah, it was
So,
good.
like, you know, it's not your fault
Yeah.
that your dad beat you, or your dad
That's
walked
right.
out on you,
That's right.
or that your husband cheated, or your
Yeah,
wife cheated.
that's
you know,
right.
but it is your responsibility
That's correct.
to take that pain
Yes.
and do something with it
That's
to
correct.
figure out how to make your life better.
That's correct. So the difference between responding and reacting. So for the medical folks in the house, if a patient responds to the medication, is that negative or positive? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? The patient responds to the medication.
In the context, it's a good thing.
In the context, it's a good thing, it is. The patient's responding to the medication. If there's a reaction to the medication, then that usually indicates a negative thing. The patient has a reaction to the medication. So the words are important. So to say that I'm nervous or I'm excited, if you heard that, right? I've told you that one before. It's the same feeling. It's the same butterflies. It's the same I'm on edge. But that simple change of words changes the whole dynamic of what you feel in your body, meaning your mental feeling. The same butterflies are there. If you're nervous or excited, if you've ever boxed or fought or lifted or competed rather, right? Are you nervous about it or are you excited about it? Usually the person who's excited about it is the one who's going to win, if there's one or the other. Because this is what my belief is, right? That the negativity of the word nervousness is a negative thing, I believe. I think that if I say I'm excited about it, that creates positivity. And I believe that that makes me in more of a mindset of receiving the good. That's what I believe. But it's only beholder's choice, and sometimes we don't realize we have a choice between stimuli and response or react is our power. When I had to reduce folks, when we had to reduce them, we take them in private, me and the platoon sergeant, or first sergeant, depending on my rank, and we take that rank off and put the new rank on. I tell them, here's your stimuli, this is what's happening. Now here's your power. Are you gonna go out there and hurt somebody, do something negative, even make it even worse? Or now you're gonna say, hey, I'm gonna overcome this, and you're gonna be like Sayakana, who became a nominal sergeant major, who was reduced 4 times. He liked to fight, he was an infantry, that's what they do. They can fight bars, they fight each other, but that's what they do, right? But he made it to nominal sergeant major in a little over 20 years. So you're gonna respond, you're gonna react. That's your choice. When the lady cuts you off, do you flip them the bird? That's a reaction.
Because they're loud in my car.
So, but that's still, I'll submit to you, that's still a habitual reaction. It's better maybe to say, isn't that interesting that I'm feeling this way? And then we don't think of that individual as a human being. We see them as an object again. But that's again about influence, right? So my influence, I have influence with the lady at the checkout stand. I have influence with the paper. I have influence with the mailman. Every year we give the mail person, $25, $50, whatever, a little gift card, right? Just influence. I'm like a mechanic. I give everyone in my shop, and I have my own personal mechanic, he's a great guy. I give them all, there's 10 people, 8 people in the shop. I give them $10 gift card from someplace. Last year was the rib place we're going to?
Mission Barbecue.
Mission Barbecue. So last year was $10 at Mission Barbecue. That little influence now is like, hey, Mr. Scott, every time I come in, this is what we did, we topped it off with, that little bit of $10, $80 provides, and because I drop my car off in the morning and pick it up, so I never see the secretary, but she got a $10 gift card too. That little bit of influence that we do for somebody creates huge benefits later on, not only for you, but for them. So our influence can be negative or positive, as I believe is chosen by the individual and how they see it. All right, can your influence grow? People of positive influence add value to others. So I said to you, when you're with somebody and you leave their company, do you feel better about yourself or less about yourself? So I'll submit to you, the people who have positive influence, you feel better about yourself. So I try, hopefully you feel positive influence on me.
I do.
Because I grab her and I take her, hey, you gotta meet Colonel Lee. You gotta meet Colonel Cobb. You gotta meet.
Yeah, he be removing me from my desk. Can't get a job done.
Can't no more done. My bad. Life isn't significant except for the influence on our lives. Jackie Robinson. Remember the story about Jackie Robinson and his contract? Did I tell you that? And up till the last class, right? So talk about a guy who had to take a lot of stuff, right? It written in his contract that he couldn't complain when people spit on him. That was in his contract. We've come a long way. You can imagine that in a contract. We add value to people when I'm on page 15. We truly value people. Do you know when somebody really values you for real? Do you know when someone really cares about your best interest? We talked about that, right? Because Rob works in the G3 section, or the, what do you call it, J3? Or the 3?
Just as
Operations, yeah, 3. So we works in the 3. And I was telling Rob that one of the things that when I do my next seminar, I'm going to talk about the do stuff, right? About how to do things. Right now I'm trying to talk about be, do, get. I love that. I'm taking it around. I'll give you all the credit. It is, yeah, I forgot I said it. See that? Be, do, get, right? So I tell Rob that when you go up to somebody and say, hey, thank you for all that you do. That says something, okay? But when I say, hey Rob, thank you for getting that op order done that I gave you, 2 hours to get done, and you got it done to near perfection. Thank you. Huge difference. The specificity matters. That you've added value to the person. When we say, hey, thank you for all that you do. Okay. But when I say, hey, Deb, thank you for staying late and talking to those soldiers on the phone from the Tampa VA, from San Antonio, and I don't think Bliss was on there. Were they on there?
Bliss was on there.
Bliss is on there, or maybe San Antonio wasn't on there.
Yeah, thank you.
But whoever wasn't on there, and you sit down and did that coordination, and you made it very clear to us, hey, Major Stacy's in charge. Remember you said that? And you made sure that we all knew that. That was powerful. those things mean more to people than just, hey, thanks for the phone call. And oh, by the way, do this too. There's a huge difference in how we can approach people and deal with people to add value. And then when we slow it down, we're sometimes moving too fast. We need to slow it down. You truly know what somebody values. You know and relate to what they value is how you add value to people. When you know the platinum rule, I think all of you heard me talk about the platinum rule. When we make ourselves more valuable, when we do things that God values, however you define God. So when you make yourself more valuable to another is when you give of yourself, is when you open yourself up, when you share. Again, to grow, you've got to expose. To get knowledge, you've got to admit your ignorance. To receive love, you've got to leave yourself open to pain and hurt. In order to grow, you've got to let yourself be vulnerable, thereby adding value. Now, in this lesson right here, what we're supposed to do is write down the name of a person you want to influence. So I'm asking you to take about, we got about 4 minutes. So it'll take about 4 minutes or less. Think of somebody you want to, because it's going to be your mission for this week. I want you to know. This is your mission for this week, so make sure you choose somebody that you truly want to influence, that you want to increase your level of influence with.
Other than a family member?
It can be anybody, because you can influence your dog. No?
Maybe I can get him to drink that wine.
Yeah, I know, right? Unfortunately, Rudy passed on, so yeah, it was really painful.
Stubborn to the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go, Roy. So as you think about that person that you want to increase your influence with, think about the platinum rule. Think about the platinum rule. The platinum rule says, do unto others the way they want it done unto them. Remember, I give the example of the pickles. I don't like pickles. So, Rashida, if you went to Burger King, McDonald's, even though you don't eat meat, if you went to get me a pickle sandwich, you would have to bring me back just the bread, because I don't like pickles. Right? But if you like pickles, you'd order extra pickles. And I would politely eat them because I like you. And then if you weren't there, if you just left it with me, I'd take them off, throw them in the trash.
What is it about pickles you don't like?
They just don't taste good. They're tangy and ugh.
You know they have different kinds, right?
No, I don't.
They're
I really, no, I
not-
seriously,
They got hot ones, they got sweet
I
ones.
seriously don't know what that. I really don't.
Like, I'm gonna take you downtown DC. There's a
Really?
place out like a little farmer's market. This dude sells like thousands of different kinds of pickles.
Seriously, Roy, if you send it to me for you, I'll go. I'm just not. No, there's
I want to make you a pickle lover. That's what I'm gonna
not.
do.
TMI, Roy. I appreciate that anyway. I was kidding. Poof, you're a pickle. No, I'm good.
Gotta be able to open yourself up, right?
I am.
Just like with love.
Hey, I said for you, Roy, I'll do it.
Okay.
I said for you, I'll do it. I'll try it. Okay. But then again, I never liked curry. The Indian type curry, like was it curry chicken? I don't know how to like the, yeah, right? And then somebody made it for me. I think it was Shabbat. I think she's made it. And I was like, it's just pretty good. Because the only time I've ever tasted it was in a restaurant, and it wasn't very good. So she made me some honey. Yeah, maybe less.
Coconut milk, people don't like it.
I like coconut milk. I
But
cook.
maybe you don't like it in curry.
Maybe, I don't know. But she made it for me delicious. So think about the person you want to influence, and now I'm asking you, if this is true, this is truly be it from your child, be it from a coworker, be it even yourself. Sit down and make a plan out, and then execute your plan to become a person of greater influence in that person's life. And I will submit to you, it's almost always about more of you giving than you taking or expecting. It's about making yourself vulnerable to pickles. If you know what I'm saying, guys, right? It's about opening yourself up to be genuine about it. I care about what's going on in your life sometimes. Or to be that honest person with them without being derogatory or demeaning. We don't have to, like I was telling you, so if it's not necessary to be what we're talking about, angry or whatever, rude. If it's not necessary to be rude, then it's necessary to not be rude. Does that make sense anymore? There's a time and place for rudeness. I really believe that. I really believe that. But if it's not necessary at this time to be rude, then it's necessary to not be rude. And that's something that I'm personally working on rudeness, but I sometimes get a little emotional as I'm looking at my actions the past week. I'll probably need some more leave. You know. But I really know seriously, I had that. I went, anyway, it doesn't matter. So this is the last thing, and then we're gonna go ahead and end for today. If you want to stay, you know the deal. I've got the room until 2:30. So if you want to stay and chat, I'm more than happy to do that. But there's no obligation for anyone. So, but I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and it's gonna be kind of rhetorical. Not kind of, sorry. It's like kind of pregnant, right? These are rhetorical, right? Okay, it was a funny joke. It was a little funny thing. Who do you influence? And actually take a few seconds to think about it. From no kid, from your dog to your children. That's the example that you're setting for them to grow, even if they're grown. I got a text from my young man today. He wants to talk to me about because I'm a member of a nonprofit, how we set the nonprofit. Because he wants to do his own, among other things he's already doing. How do you influence others? And I submit to you that you also influence others by the example you set. So when you fly off the handle at the guy who cut you off in traffic, and this is what I saw growing up, when you get cut off and you start screaming and yelling, so when that child becomes of age, guess what because that's what they've learned. That's how they've learned. Because our children learn at the school of emulation. How many do you influence? I submit to you that you influence at least hundreds a day. From the person you're driving next to. You've seen the guy or girl digging in their nose while they're driving. I take it one person has. I'm just being honest, right? Because we had a conversation, Miss Darby and I had a conversation. Or the person you let in, or the young lady at the checkout, or the bellman you say thank you to, or the young ladies who gladly bring me water every day now. And you know why? I gave them a $15 tip. Not a big deal for me. Meant the world to them. Ron, Mr. Scott A. meant the world to them. When do you influence others? I submit to you everything that you do. The example you set. Buck O'Neill, if you guys may not know him, Sergeant Major O'Neill is now the Command Sergeant Major of the AMED Center and School, right? Nominate Sergeant Major. And I remember when he came out of Fort Bragg, hard as woodpecker lips. See that look you have all the time? That's the look you had all the time. I'm going to eat you and your kids. That's that look you had.
That's my focus face. I'm trying to listen. They're generally smiling all the time. This is when I'm focused.
So I told Buck, I said, hey Buck, you're out of that environment. You're in I did say this, but you're in a more professional environment, in the hospital. You're now in a hospital. You have civilians, you have enlisted, you have officers, you have Navy, you have Air Force. I've got local nationals. I need you to be approachable, right? The people you need to eat their lunch on are your first sergeants and you got sergeant majors. Everybody else, you got to be. My belief is you should be the nicest person in the world. Because somebody else should be eating their lunch. You should be the nicest person in the world. That's what you should. That's my opinion. That was my opinion. And he's like, "Oh, we're 82nd. This is how we do it." He learned though, because you can't be that way in the 82nd. You get laughed at, stomped down. There's a time to be that, all that. The book does say that. There's a time for almost everything. It does say everything. Why do you influence others? I submit to you, we influence others because it does give us a feeling of, a good feeling of one way or the other, that it truly is better to give than to receive. I suspect that we also influence others to complete our mission. I suspect that we influence others because we want our kids to be better than what we were. However we measure that, what we were or are. And where do you influence others? Not only in the workplace, but in your home, in the supermarket. You know, I was just reading a book that talked about my growing up. Rashida was in the, I guess you're not the youngest one here after all, so it's Roy. You're the youngest one here, I think. So my growing up was in the 70s, right? And what we used to say is, that's one of the Miller's girls. That's what you say, right? That's one of Scott's boys. You were known by your family. Still? Yeah, because she's from Belize. I got it right, didn't I? Yes. So still that way. You're known. You represented, my grandfather said, boy, you represent me.
I still do that to my kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're a representation of me, so when you walk out in the house, I need you to look like me, think like me, and be like me.
Absolutely.
My daughter will look at me and be like, not gonna happen.
But absolutely. So when I ran my companies, when I was the first sergeant, and I had my battalions, and I had my brigades, and I had my equivalent of my division, when you needed a soldier, I send you my number 1 and number 2. You know why? That represents Scott. That represents me.
A lot of some majors don't do anything.
And I feel bad for them. I would submit to you, then when I would talk to them, and I would say, when you look at the board of Soldier of the Year, NCO of the Year, Sailor of the Year, more than 50%, I had 4 other companies in my battalion, 4 others, so 5 I was told, more than 50% of them belong to this company. PT scores. Why was a tooth fairy, made sergeant major in less than 20 years, and now nominated sergeant major, 2-star. There's only one other one who's that same level as me, it's Tui Nua. I have my standards because you represent me.